The gleaming transport pod of the intergalactic tourism agency Cosmos Wanderers shimmered into existence just beyond Earth's moon, the blue-green planet rotating majestically before them. Inside, tour guide Kip adjusted his translator and observed the excitement rippling through his group of 12 aliens from 7 different star systems. "Welcome to Sol 3, locally known as Earth," Kip announced, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "The only known planet in the galaxy where the dominant species actively seeks out spicy food that causes them pain, then declares it delicious." The tourists chittered and bubbled with amusement. This was, after all, why most had signed up for the tour. Earth had recently joined the Galactic Federation, and its reputation as the wildcard planet had spread faster than quantum communications. "Before we descend," Kip continued, "let me remind you that humans are classified as Deathworlders. They evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill them, and instead of sensibly leaving, they decided to conquer it." Murgle, a gelatinous being from Proxima Centauri, wobbled nervously. "Is it true they drink poison for enjoyment?" "Absolutely." Kip's tentacles waved enthusiastically. "They call it alcohol, and it's just one of many substances they consume despite its toxic properties. They also willingly expose themselves to solar radiation until their skin burns, an activity they call tanning." The horrified gasps were precisely the reaction Kip had hoped for. The Earth tour was always a hit. "Humans are endurance predators," he explained. "While most species in the galaxy evolved to conserve energy, humans will run marathons. That's 42.2 kilometers, for fun. Their children play games where they chase each other until exhaustion, training for a hunt that modern society no longer requires." Blorg, a towering insectoid, clicked his mandibles. "I heard they can regenerate limbs." "Not quite," Kip corrected. "But they can donate organs while alive, regrow their liver partially, and continue functioning with just one of their paired organs. Their medical techniques involve cutting themselves open and rearranging internal components, a procedure they named surgery." The pod began its descent through Earth's atmosphere, causing the protective shields to glow orange with friction. "Their strength is remarkable," Kip continued. "Not in absolute terms. A Jovian rock crusher could still squash them, but their power-to-weight ratio is extraordinary. And their thermal regulation. They can survive in environments ranging from -50 to 50 degrees Celsius with minimal protection." The viewing screens activated, showing sprawling human cities, vast oceans, and snow-capped mountains. "But perhaps most terrifying of all," Kip said, his voice dropping dramatically, "is their adaptability. Humans have populated nearly every environment on their planet, from frozen tundras to scorching deserts. They've created technology to survive underwater, in space, and everywhere in between." The pod settled gently in the designated landing zone outside New York, one of Earth's first approved alien tourist destinations. "Remember," Kip concluded as the airlock prepared to open, "humans appear fragile, but they are remarkably resilient. They call themselves the apex predator of their world, yet they cry watching emotional entertainment, create art for no practical purpose, and will adopt predators from other species as pets. They are walking contradictions, and that's what makes them the most fascinating species in the known galaxy." The door hissed open, revealing the New York skyline bathed in sunset. "Welcome to Earth, everyone. Prepare to be amazed, confused, and possibly terrified. It's going to be a wonderful trip." Kip herded his diverse group of extraterrestrial tourists through the specialized alien welcome center at the edge of Central Park. The facility had been specifically designed following Earth's admission to the Galactic Federation, with environments accommodating various atmospheric and gravitational needs. "Now let's discuss essential Earth customs," Kip announced, his tentacles adjusting the holographic display. "First, and most critical, personal space. Humans require an invisible bubble around them of approximately arm's length. Violate this bubble, and you may trigger their fight or flight response. Droll, a crystalline entity who communicated through light pulses, flickered with confusion. But I observed humans pressing their faces together in the arrival area. Excellent observation, Kip exclaimed. That's called kissing, a complex social ritual usually reserved for mates or family members. Which brings us to our next point. Human mating rituals are extraordinarily complicated and often involve consuming nutrients together, an activity called dating. The tourists recorded this information diligently in their neural logs. Humans communicate through multiple channels simultaneously, Kip continued. They use verbal language, but also body language and facial expressions. For example, showing teeth in a smile is friendly, not a threat display, as it is on Rigel 9. Murgle wobbled anxiously. How do we avoid offense? An excellent question. When greeting humans, the safest approach is the handshake, grasping and gently moving their primary manipulator appendage. If you lack appropriate appendages, a slight bow is acceptable. Never release your mating pheromones, regardless of how attractive you find them. The group emerged onto Fifth Avenue, where curious humans stopped to stare at the alien procession. Humans organize themselves into families, small genetic collectives, and nations, large territorial groups. They identify strongly with these arbitrary divisions and may become emotional if you criticize their collective. Blorg raised a spindly limb. Is it true they engage in ritualized combat for entertainment? Indeed, they call it sports, and billions watch these activities. Strangely, humans who have never participated in these activities feel deep emotional connections to teams of strangers, sometimes becoming distressed when their preferred group loses. The tourists watched as a human child dropped an ice cream cone and began crying. Several parents immediately responded with comforting gestures. Notice this demonstration of human empathy, Kip pointed out. Despite being apex predators, humans experience profound emotional responses to others' distress. They will often assist strangers with no evolutionary advantage to themselves. The group passed a street performer playing guitar, with humans tossing currency into an open case. Observe their appreciation for art, Kip explained. Humans create vibrations they call music that trigger emotional responses. They also recreate visual stimuli through painting and sculpture for no practical purpose beyond emotional stimulation. As they navigated a crosswalk, Kip gestured to traffic. Humans have agreed upon rules for movement that they simultaneously respect and ignore. This contradiction appears throughout their society. The tour stopped at a sidewalk cafe, modified for multi-species use. We'll now participate in the human ritual of coffee. This beverage contains a mild neurotoxin called caffeine that humans are addicted to. They've built an entire culture around consuming it socially. Kip's assistants distributed appropriate breathing apparatus and interface adapters. Remember, Kip concluded, humans are extraordinarily sensitive to perceived rudeness, yet frequently struggle to communicate their actual needs. They often say no problem when something is indeed a problem, and fine rarely means they are actually fine. Master these contradictions, and you'll navigate human society successfully. The alien tourists settled into their observation positions, watching humanity with fascination and perplexity, as another day on Earth unfolded before them. Today, Kip announced as the hover platform glided over the Grand Canyon, we explore what humans call natural wonders, and how these deathworlders transform planetary disasters into recreational activities. The alien tourists gazed in wonder at the massive erosion scar cutting through Earth's crust. Zon, a gaseous entity contained in a hovering metallic sphere, pulsed with incredulity. They visit sites of geological catastrophe for pleasure. Zon's translator vibrated. Precisely. Kip's tentacles gesticulated enthusiastically. Humans are uniquely attracted to the very forces that threaten their existence. They climb mountains, vertical rocks that could collapse at any moment, and call it adventure. They dive into ocean trenches where pressure could implode their fragile bodies, naming it exploration. The platform descended toward a riverside camp where human guides waited with equipment. Today's scheduled activity: whitewater rafting. Look there. Kip pointed to a family picnicking near a warning sign about potential flash floods. Humans classify dangers into acceptable and unacceptable risks, often based on entirely subjective criteria. They fear statistically improbable events like shark attacks, while casually engaging with genuine threats like solar radiation. The tourists were fitted with specialized equipment that would allow them to experience the human activity safely, regardless of their biological makeup. What makes Earth's delights so unique in the galaxy, Kip continued, is how humans have reframed deadly environments as experiences. Observe how they willingly enter rapidly moving water, a substance that can kill them through aspiration, and consider it entertainment. Murgle's gelatinous form quivered with anxiety inside its protective bubble. I'm uncertain about this activity. Fear is part of the authentic human experience, Kip reassured. Humans deliberately seek activities that trigger their fear response, then celebrate surviving them. They call it an adrenaline rush, referring to emergency chemicals their bodies produce during perceived life-threatening situations. As the group boarded modified rafts, human guides explained safety procedures with practiced ease, now accustomed to extraterrestrial tourists. Notice, Kip whispered to his group, how humans have developed specialized language for their disaster tourism. That dangerous rock formation is called a feature. The potentially fatal water configuration ahead is exciting rapids. The rafts launched into the churning Colorado River, with aliens experiencing comparable sensations through their adaptive equipment. Screams, translated from 7 different biological communication systems, filled the air alongside human whoops of delight. Later, dried and restored to their preferred environmental conditions, the tour gathered at a human restaurant. This brings us to perhaps the most perplexing human delight: their cuisine, Kip said, as servers brought various dishes modified for alien consumption through molecular reconstruction. Humans intentionally consume plants that create defensive chemical irritants. They call these spices, and consider the pain they cause to be pleasurable. Blorg's mandibles clicked rapidly. The database said they ferment perfectly edible food until it chemically transforms, then consume it in its decayed state. Correct. They call it aging or fermenting and consider it improved. Some of their most prized foods are essentially controlled rot, like cheese and wine. Droll's crystalline form sparkled with amusement. Their concept of edibility seems based on surviving the experience rather than biological optimization. Kip's primary eyes blinked in agreement. Humans repeatedly consume substances that temporarily poison them, causing impaired neural function, physical illness, and memory loss. They call this partying and do it voluntarily. As the evening concluded, the group observed humans dancing around a campfire. Another controlled disaster they kept for recreational and ceremonial purposes. Tomorrow, Kip announced, we'll explore human communication methods. But tonight, observe how they gather around a miniature inferno, fire, one of their planet's most destructive forces, to create social bonds. Despite their technological advancement, they retain primitive disaster management as cultural touchstones. The aliens watched in fascination as humans laughed, sang, and celebrated beneath the stars, seemingly oblivious to the countless planetary dangers surrounding them, or perhaps, more terrifyingly, fully aware but completely unafraid. The alien tour group assembled in Times Square, their various sensory organs overwhelmed by the cacophony of advertisements, conversations, music, and urban noise. Protective filters and dampeners engaged automatically for species whose perception systems couldn't handle the human concept of sensory overload as normal environment. Today, Kip announced, his vocalization organs adjusted to be heard over the din, we explore the most complex aspect of human society: their communication systems. Blorg's antennae twitched nervously. I thought they primarily used sound waves of limited frequency range. That's merely the surface level, Kip explained. Human communication is multi-layered in ways most galactic species find bewildering. They simultaneously transmit information through sound, words, visual cues, facial expressions, and body language, contextual implications, historical references, and something they call tone, which can completely reverse the meaning of their actual words. The group moved toward a street performance where humans were engaged in theatrical interaction. Observe how the humans laugh when one says something factually incorrect, Kip pointed out. This is sarcasm, where they state the opposite of reality with specific vocal inflections to indicate the statement should be inverted. It serves no practical purpose yet comprises approximately 30% of their casual interaction. Murgle bubbled with confusion. How do they avoid constant misunderstandings? They don't. Kip's tentacles wiggled with amusement. Human societies function despite, or perhaps because of, constant communication failures. They have developed elaborate rituals called apologies, specifically because their communication system is so inefficient. The tour continued to a cafe where humans sat engaged in conversation over beverages. Notice how the humans' ocular organs make contact, then look away in patterns, Kip explained. They transmit critical social information through millisecond duration eye movements that indicate dominance, submission, interest, or deception. Most remarkable is that this complex system operates entirely beneath their conscious awareness. Droll's crystalline form pulsed with light signals indicating deep interest. Do their digital communications maintain this complexity? An excellent question. Kip brought up a holographic display showing human text messages. Lacking physical cues in digital formats, humans invented symbolic representations called emoji and memes that compress entire emotional concepts into single images. They also deliberately misspell words, alter grammatical structures, and use punctuation inconsistently to convey emotional states. The aliens recorded examples of the peculiar human tendency to end threatening statements with lol to indicate non-hostility. Perhaps most confounding, Kip continued as they observe humans greeting each other, is that humans regularly inquire about each other's health and well-being with no expectation of receiving accurate information. The question, "How are you?" is almost never answered truthfully. Zahn's metallic sphere hummed thoughtfully. It seems terribly inefficient, yet paradoxically effective, Kip countered. Human communication evolved primarily for social bonding rather than information exchange. The imprecision you observe serves to maintain group cohesion and establish hierarchies without direct conflict. The tour stopped before street art displaying visual metaphors and symbolism. Humans communicate across time through preserved cultural references, Kip explained. They constantly quote entertainment media, historical figures, and literary works, assuming mutual knowledge. Understanding a human often requires familiarity with thousands of years of their cultural development. As the group prepared to return to their transport, they passed humans engaged in a heated discussion about sports. Notice how these humans display aggression signals while discussing the relative merits of groups of strangers engaged in formalized competition, Kip noted. They appear to be threatening each other, yet this is categorized as friendly debate. The boundaries between human conflict and camaraderie are remarkably fluid. The aliens recorded final observations as twilight settled over the city. Remember, Kip concluded, when communicating with humans, assume at least 3 layers of meaning in every interaction. They rarely say exactly what they mean, often don't mean exactly what they say, and frequently communicate most clearly through what they don't say at all. Mastering human communication isn't merely about understanding their words. It's about decoding an entire species' worth of contextual history, social cues, and unspoken assumptions. The group departed, many of them toggling their translators off just to enjoy the cognitive silence after a day immersed in humanity's communicative complexity. The alien tour group gathered in their acclimatized observation dome, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Outside, human surfers rode massive waves despite warning flags indicating dangerous conditions. Today, Kip announced, multiple eyes scanning his eager audience, we discuss practical survival strategies for your Earth visit. While humans are generally non-hostile toward recognized sentient species, their planet remains classified as a Class 5 death world for good reason. Holographic displays illuminated with warning symbols as Kip continued. Earth's gravity, atmospheric composition, bacterial ecology, and radiation levels each present unique challenges. Your environmental suits are designed to mitigate these threats, but understanding human safety protocols is essential. Blorg raised a segmented limb. The database mentioned traffic as a primary threat. Absolutely correct. Kip's appendages manipulated the display to show Earth roadways. Humans navigate their planet using individually piloted kinetic metal projectiles moving at lethal velocities with minimal guidance systems. They call this system driving and consider 1.35 million annual fatalities an acceptable operational parameter. The aliens recoiled in unified horror. To survive, use designated crossing paths called crosswalks and obey light-based command signals. Never assume a human driver has detected your presence. Their sensory awareness is severely limited compared to most galactic species. Zon's containment sphere pulsed anxiously. What about their predator species? An excellent concern, Kip acknowledged. Earth maintains numerous apex predators that humans inexplicably chose not to eradicate despite establishing planetary dominance. These include sharks in oceanic regions, bears in forested areas, and mosquitoes, tiny hematophagous insects responsible for more human deaths than any other animal. Murgle's gelatinous form quivered. How do humans survive daily existence? Through a combination of technological mitigation, risk habituation, and a biological quirk they call optimism bias, the irrational belief that negative outcomes happen only to others. Kip's primary manipulators gestured toward the surfers. Observe those humans deliberately placing themselves in peril. They've calculated that the neurochemical reward of excitement outweighs potential death. The display shifted to show weather patterns. Earth's atmosphere undergoes chaotic reorganization cycles that create phenomena like hurricanes, tornadoes, and thunderstorms, essentially localized apocalyptic events that humans merely inconvenience. Droll's crystalline structure pulsated. Do they possess weather control technology? They can predict weather with 70% accuracy, but choose not to control it, citing ecological balance and natural cycles. Instead, they build structures designed to withstand these disasters, then rebuild when those structures inevitably fail. Kip's display shifted to microscopic imagery. Perhaps most terrifying are Earth's microbiological threats. The planet hosts trillions of bacterial and viral organisms, many hostile to human biology. Rather than establishing sterile habitats, humans coexist with these pathogens, developing partial immunity through constant low-level warfare called immune response. A sci display showed humans preparing food in an outdoor setting. Humans have ritualized the consumption of potential toxins into cuisine. Always consult your xenobiological filters before sampling human food. What they consider delicious may be molecular poison to your system. Their stimulant beverage coffee contains compounds that would paralyze neural functions in 6 known sentient species. Kip's appendages work the controls to display security information regarding human social threats. Most dangers come from cultural misunderstandings rather than deliberate hostility. Humans place extraordinary importance on concepts like respect and politeness, yet these concepts vary drastically between their regional subdivisions. The tourists recorded the safety instructions with various sensory apparatus. Should you experience an emergency, contact your guide immediately using quantum entanglement communicators. Do not rely on human emergency services, which remain calibrated exclusively for their biology. As the instructional session concluded, Kip's tone modulator shifted to a more optimistic frequency. Having just returned to normal space-time after my Earth expedition with Cosmos Wanderers, tour guide, Kip 827b, I feel compelled to share my experiences with fellow galactic travelers considering this peculiar destination. First, a warning. Earth is legitimately classified as a death world. This is not marketing hyperbole. The planet actively attempts to eliminate visitors through atmospheric composition, gravitational stress, radiation exposure, indigenous microorganisms, and the humans themselves, who, despite official Federation membership, remain startlingly unpredictable. Yet therein lies Earth's paradoxical charm. Our tour began in New York City, a vertical human hive structure where millions coexist in voluntary proximity. The cacophony of sensory input, what humans casually dismiss as city noise, required triple filtering through my perception augmentations. Humans not only tolerate this constant stimulation, but apparently seek it out, paying premium resource units to dwell in the most overwhelming environments. Accommodations at the multi-species Hilton were adequate, though the artificial gravity fluctuations designed to accommodate Jovian tourists caused my dorsal sensory clusters significant discomfort. Management provided complimentary nutrient supplements as compensation. The culinary experiences proved unexpectedly memorable. Humans prepare sustenance with deliberate chemical irritants they call spices, transforming simple molecular energy transfer into an elaborate sensory ritual. After initial digestive distress, promptly addressed by my internal medical suite, I developed appreciation for their pizza, a flattened carbohydrate disk with fermented proteins. The establishment Ray's provided superior iterations of this peculiar construct. Regarding humans themselves, Federation orientation videos fail to capture their bewildering complexity. These beings evolved as pursuit predators, yet devote substantial resources to assisting weaker members of their species. They create beautiful art depicting tragedies they actively work to prevent. They form deep attachments to non-sentient companion species. Most perplexingly, they engage in extreme physical exertion for no purpose beyond what they call fun. Our guide Kip demonstrated exceptional knowledge regarding human behavioral patterns, correctly predicting their responses to our various morphologies. The crystalline entity Droll received excessive attention, while my own compound eye structures and circulatory tendrils elicited their disgust response, precisely as indicated in our pre-departure briefings. Humans remain visually oriented despite their limited spectrum perception. Highlight experiences included witnessing atmospheric water crystallization, snow, in a region called Vermont. Humans celebrate this potentially lethal temperature drop by sliding down frozen elevation changes on waxed planks. Observing oceanic tidal patterns in California, where humans deliberately position themselves on primitive flotation devices to be propelled by hydraulic forces strong enough to rupture their fragile exoskeletons. Participating in the ceremonial exchange of resource tokens for manufactured items, shopping, along Fifth Avenue. The economic inefficiency is baffling yet somehow satisfying. Experiencing a baseball game, where humans gather in vast numbers to observe other humans strike small spheroids with cylindrical implements, while consuming fermented grain beverages and processed animal components. Minor complaints include the constant need for translator recalibration. Human language contains numerous context-dependent meanings, and the peculiar human insistence on asking personal questions while simultaneously respecting privacy. The cognitive dissonance required substantial neural adjustment. I must acknowledge one significant incident. During our Grand Canyon excursion, several humans attempted to interact with my circulatory tendrils, mistaking them for what they call high-five appendages. Tour guide Kip intervened before my involuntary defense secretions could cause diplomatic complications. The humans apologized profusely, another paradox, as they seemed genuinely distressed about potentially harming a being they had just met.